Hi there, I'm Chef Jeremy Blythe from Wiregrass Ranch High School in Wesley Chapel, Florida, and today I'm going to be making a mindful meal for you. We're going to be doing a chicken and shrimp hibachi with cauliflower fried rice. We've got all of our ingredients laid out already. We've got our tools set aside, and we're going to go ahead and go through it step by step to show you exactly what to do. So the first thing that's most important is to start by washing your hands, which I've already gone and done. You want to wash your hands very well in between your fingers, around your palm, and then dry them thoroughly. Okay, so once we're there and you have all of your ingredients ready to go, you can check out the recipe. It's going to be in the link down below. First thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to grab our proteins. So we have shrimp and we have chicken. So with our shrimp, I've gone ahead and I have already peeled and deveined the majority of them. Left a couple aside just so that I could show you guys how to do them yourselves. So we're going to take the shrimp, and you can see here that these couple that I left for you, still have the tail and the shell on them. The shell is already split. So we're just going to go ahead and peel the shell away from the side of the shrimp. Use your thumb to get around the tentacles and pull away as much of the shell as you can in one swoop. Then you grab the tail by the two flaps on the bottom, pinch real tight, wiggle, 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 and there it goes. Ideally, what you want to have left is the entire part of the tail of the shrimp, which includes this little point here. But if it comes off, it's not a big deal. So I'm going to do these last two here real quick. So I actually go ahead and I purchase shrimp. I spend less money on them because I get the kind that you have to peel yourself. So these guys here were frozen, which is great because they're frozen fresh right from the ocean. But these are already deveined. So what deveining is the little brown line that runs across the back of the shrimp. So this guy's already been split open and they've already been cleaned. We just have to take the shells off. You can get them without their shells. It just typically will cost a little bit more per pound because it's more work on the front end by the fishermen and the processors of the product. Now that we have all of our shrimp peeled and deveined and they're ready to go, I've got them on a paper towel here to pat off a lot of the excess moisture because we're going to go ahead and marinate them now. And we don't want to add any extra water or moisture to the marinade other than the flavored liquids that we're adding. So I've got a glass bowl here that we're going to marinate them in. So the first thing that we're going to start with is some chopped garlic. I like to use fresh garlic, fresh whole clove garlic. You can use a garlic press. I use the Roboku here to my left. I use that to process it down and chop it nice, or you can just use a knife. So we're going to put about 2 teaspoons or so of garlic, maybe equivalent to 3 or so cloves. It really all depends on your taste and what you like. I've also got 2 tablespoons of some brown sugar, light brown. If you don't have brown sugar, that's okay. You can use the equivalent in honey. You could use some honey, or you could use white sugar as well. So we're going to put that in there as well. And then we're going to take about 3 tablespoons of a low sodium soy sauce. So I use low sodium just to kind of help control the salt content, but you can use whatever soy sauce brand that you prefer. If you're gluten-free, you can use, it's called Tamari. Say about 6 tablespoons of light sodium soy sauce, or low reduced sodium. Okay, so now we've got our brown sugar, we've got our fresh garlic, and we've got our soy sauce. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to add a little bit of fresh ginger. So fresh ginger kind of comes in this little antler looking thing here you get right here in the produce section at pretty much any grocery store. The big misconception is that usually it's easiest to use a peeler to peel it, which is, if your peeler's sharp, you can. But honestly, the best trick that I ever learned was that you actually use a spoon to peel your ginger. So right here on my cutting board, I'm going to go ahead and take the curved part of the spoon, and I'm going to just scrape it up against the side of the ginger. And you can see how easily the skin's coming off. You can really get a lot of that nice ginger scent coming off of it. You don't really need much, just about maybe a ½ inch or so nub off of your ginger for this part. We're going to use a little bit more for our cauliflower fried rice, but we'll get there in just a little bit. So I'm going to scooch this mess off to the side here. And then what I like to use is I like to use a microplane. So a microplane, or also known as like a cheese grater sometimes, you can grate fresh herbs such as like nutmeg or spices like nutmeg, and then fresh ginger is really good for too. So we're going to go right over the bowl with our microplane. 2 teaspoons worth of fresh ginger. Now it's really potent, it's really strong, so you don't need to use a lot to get maximum flavor out of it. Just adds a really nice rounded overall Asian flavor to dishes. Ginger, lemongrass, those things are very popular in Asian cuisine. And they're healthy, they don't contain any calories. So we're just going to keep rubbing this on just to get a little bit more, about 2 teaspoons worth. And then you can kind of tap your microplane right into your bowl. So now we've got our ingredients up to our ginger. So now we're going to take a little bit of sriracha. Now this ingredient is subjective. If you don't like it spicy, feel free to not use any. I would advise using just a little bit for the flavor of the chili, the Sriracha chili, because now we're going to have a little bit of a balance of salty, sweet, and then a little bit of heat, and then earthiness from the ginger and the garlic. Okay, we're going to go about 2 teaspoons. All right, and now we're going to take a whisk, and we're going to whisk those ingredients together. Now this marinade is going to be double purpose. We're going to use this for our shrimp and also our chicken. So we want to get our proteins ready to go and prepped and sitting in the marinade while we're doing some other preparation for the dish. So you're just going to whisk this together until the sugar's mostly dissolved. Okay, and then we're going to take our shrimp and we're going to add it to this larger bowl. We have more shrimp than we do chicken today. Again, any proportion that you would like is totally up to you. So we're going to go everybody in the pool there. We're just going to give them a good toss in the marinade. Whoop! Shrimp overboard. Okay, so I'm going to let these guys... Now, again, you can adjust this marinade to your taste. If you love garlic, go ahead, go crazy with the garlic. If you love that ginger flavor, go ahead and add more ginger. And if you like it more spicy, add more sriracha. Completely tailorable for you and your family, whatever you prefer. So we're going to set aside our shrimp to marinate a little bit more. I'm actually going to bring over the chicken. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've actually put down a separate like cutting board protector, or you can use a separate cutting board altogether to process my chicken. So to go out, I'm going to chop it up into little chunks for marinating. But you want to do that because chicken and shrimp cook to 2 different temperatures in order for them to be safe to eat. So for chicken, you have to cook it to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. In order for it to be safe. And with seafood, you have to cook it to 145. So with chicken, because we have to cook it longer, we don't want to contaminate everything else that doesn't have to be cooked quite as long. So we're going to go ahead and process our chicken. So I've got it here. But we want our chicken about this size, like bite-sized pieces, couple of bites. You can go a little bit smaller if you have smaller kids. So, you know, it's a little bit easier to eat. So we're going to go ahead and cut it into smaller chunks today. And as you're cutting it into your chunks, you can go ahead and add it to that other bowl of marinade. Okay, so now we've got our chicken cut up into smaller pieces, and we're going to take that spoon that we were tossing our shrimp with before, and we can use that in the chicken because the shrimp, cross-contamination wise, the shrimp has to cook to a lower temperature than the chicken, so it's okay to cross them in this way. So we're going to toss the chicken in the other part of the marinade. I'm just going to coat everybody up. We're going to go into prepping our cauliflower now. So we're going to go ahead and I bought a whole head of cauliflower. You can buy it frozen, already cut up into florets. Or you can actually buy riced cauliflower already frozen that you can just steam right in the microwave. We're just doing this for you today just to show you start to finish how it actually goes. So we got a really big guy here. So this is going to make a lot of cauliflower rice. Typically we'll use 1 head unless it's a lot. We are going to use this whole thing today so we can meal prep for later in the week. But what you want to do, you get it out of your plastic, make sure it looks nice and clean. If you need to rinse it, you can, make sure you rinse it in the sink. You're going to flip it over on its top. So you're going to put the top side of the cauliflower down. And you're going to see some of these protective green stems and the really thick core right here in the center. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to peel back as much of that as we possibly can with our hands. Okay, and then from here, we're going to start cutting the cauliflower off of the head in chunks. So we're going to take our knife and safely, we're going to go down and cut around the large stem chunk right here in the center. You want to kind of have your knife angled as like sort of a V, so that as you cut around, the core should ideally pop out. You can get your finger in there, get underneath and pull it out. Okay, so that's a big chunk of the core that we just got out. So now what you're left with is the connective core pieces that keep all the little florets from falling all over the place. So to make this a little bit more workable and a little bit easier to deal with, I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. If you see any more of these like leaf pieces, just go ahead and pull them off. They're not going to hurt you, but they're not really very good. They're just meant to protect the plant. So we're going to cut this in half. Okay, you can see the inside of the cauliflower, how beautiful. So you can kind of see where all these thicker stalk pieces are, and then you have the florets on the top of the cauliflower, the part that most people prefer to eat. So we're going to take those, and we're going to start breaking them off. You can break them off with your hand, okay? You want to use as little of the stem as possible, but what I like to do is I actually like to take the knife You can use a chef's knife or a smaller knife if you'd prefer. And you're just gonna go in and cut towards the top of those thick stem pieces, and you'll see it'll start to just fall right off. And we're gonna put those off to the side in a bowl for now. A little stem is okay, but you don't want too much. So we're just gonna keep working that. We're gonna keep cutting at the base of the florets, at the tops of the stems. And it's okay if they're in big chunks like this. You're gonna see what we're gonna do with it here in just a minute. So again, this is a little bit, it's cheaper to purchase a whole head of cauliflower versus already even frozen or fresh, already cut off the stalk. It's just a little bit cheaper this way because you have to do more of the work than the processing company does. Okay, so we're gonna take this half and we're gonna fill our bowl up there. Makes a mess, so be prepared for that. But we can take all of this good stuff and put it together in a bowl. Okay, but we've got our cauliflower all cleaned up here. Now we're actually gonna use our food processor to do this, to break the cauliflower down into cauliflower rice. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take the top off of our food processor. We're gonna set the lid aside, and we're gonna fill our food processor about 3/4 of the way. If the chunks don't fit, just kind of break them up with your hand a little bit to fit them into the side. So once it's got a good amount in it, we're gonna put our lid back on, and we're gonna pulse it a few times until the cauliflower breaks down into small rice-sized granules. Okay. So now we've got the first round of our cauliflower done, and you can see sometimes you might have little chunks that stick aside, so just go ahead and pull those out and we'll try on the next round and grind them up. But you can see now that the cauliflower is in small rice or grain-sized pieces. So now that you've ground up, chopped up all your cauliflower nice and fine, we're gonna set it to the side until we're ready to saute it in our pan. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna finish prepping the rest of our veggies. So we have two different sets of vegetables that we have to prep for. We're gonna chop up our zucchini for our hibachi. We have 1 carrot for the fried rice, 1 for the hibachi. We've got some green onions for the fried rice, and then also for some garnish at the end. We've got some fresh white mushrooms here that we're gonna chop up for hibachi. We've got a sweet onion, some more of that ginger. We've got some sesame seeds here for garnish. And then we've also got some broccoli. So I bought a fresh head of broccoli, the same as I did the cauliflower, because fresh is just always better. You're gonna get more of the nutrients out of the product. And it comes very similar. This one already came partially broken down, but you can buy it as a whole head just as the cauliflower. So really quickly, we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing to the broccoli that we did with the cauliflower. We're just gonna cut the majority of the stem off of the broccoli. So this guy, we're not gonna break down into really small pieces. We just want them in bite-sized little florets. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep cutting these off the stem, but you can do this very much in the same way that you did the cauliflower. And then we're actually gonna go with these broccoli florets, since they're fresh and not frozen. We're actually gonna go ahead and do a process called blanching and shocking. So that's gonna be another kitchen technique that you're gonna learn here. And what I have going over here to my left is a pot of water at a rolling boil. So we're gonna go ahead and par cook this broccoli before we saute it with the hibachi. We're gonna go ahead and par cook it. Par cook means to cook partially or part of the way. We're gonna blanch it in this boiling water that I'm gonna salt heavily here in just a moment. And then we're gonna shock it in a bowl of ice water. That stops the cooking process and keeps the broccoli staying really, really vibrant and green. Now that our water is up to a rolling boil, we're gonna go ahead and drop it in. As soon as that's done and we get it chilling here in our ice water, we're gonna go ahead and start cutting up our other vegetables. And this part shouldn't take too long. Hard stuff is out of the way. We're about to get to the fun part, which is finishing and actually cooking everything. These two recipes, the hibachi and the fried rice, they're very big, they're very heavy on the preparation side. So this is where, you can get the family involved with peeling the shrimp, cutting up the chicken, the mushrooms, the zucchini, and you can customize it any way you'd like. You can use any vegetables that your family likes. And you could prep a lot of this stuff the day before so that, busy schedules, you come home and it's just kind of quick, maybe 5-10 minutes to saute it all together and finish cooking it. And we're gonna scoop out the broccoli and plunge it right into the ice water. You see how it's nice and vibrant green. Shocking it and stopping the cooking process is gonna keep it bright and green from turning that kind of gray color. Okay, so once we get our broccoli all shocked and the temperature dropped on it, we're gonna go ahead and pull it out of the ice water. We don't wanna let it sit in the water because it'll start to take some of that water on and might turn mushy. We pulled out all of our broccoli. I'm gonna set that back aside. Now it's prepped and ready as well. So now what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna cut up our zucchini, our mushrooms, our carrots, and our onions. The zucchini, the best way to do it is to take a little bit off of one end a little bit off of the other end. And then I cut it lengthwise all the way down. So you have two flat sides. Now you want to turn those down so that it's safer to cut with. So we're going to cut them in half lengthwise again. And then from here, we're going to go down and cut into chunks. Now if you like to do thinner slices, feel free to do that. So I like the chunks because they hold up their texture a little bit better. There's a lot of water in zucchini. So when you cut them into these chunks at the high heat, they're still going to maintain a lot of their texture. Okay, so now for our carrots. We've got 2 carrots here, and then I've got what's called a Y peeler. So you want to take the peel off the carrot. It just makes it a little bit more tender, a little bit easier to eat. So we're going to peel from top to bottom. So now you have two carrots. One carrot is going to be cut up into small dice, and the other carrot is going to be cut into what's called an oblique. What you want to do is you want to break your carrot up into 2 distinct chunks so it's a little bit easier to work with. And we're going to do very similar to the zucchini. We're going to cut it down lengthwise. You want to hold it very well because it is going to roll on you. So you want to go ahead and cut it down that way. And you got your flat sides down, and then you're going to cut in quarters. So then we're going to take our carrots and we're going to cut into a small dice. Just chopped up into little pieces. So you can kind of bunch these guys together. And with this guy, we're going to leave it whole just like this. And we're going to place it horizontal at an angle with our knife, approximately 45 degrees. We're going to cut off a large chunk off the end, and we're going to set. But then we're going to cut them into approximately 1/4 inch thin oblong circles. So you're just going to work the length of the carrot. And remember, you want them to be roughly the same thickness because that is going to help them cook a little bit faster as well. Okay, so we got our carrots, our zucchini, our broccoli. Now we're going to do our mushrooms real quick. So these guys are pretty big. So we're going to cut these a little bit differently. Normally, if they were smaller, I would just cut them into quarters. But it's important you want to take the stem off the bottom and just grasp it, and you're going to pull out the stem. Now, if these were really dirty looking, if they had a lot of dirt on them, you don't ever want to rinse mushrooms in running water because they're like sponges. They absorb everything. You would just take a damp paper towel and gently rub them to get the excess dirt off. But these guys are very nice and clean. Okay, so with these guys, I think I'm just going to take them and do slices. So you just put them with the flat side down on your cutting board, and you're just going to cut them into nice thin slices. Again, if they're smaller and you would like to cut them into quarters like chunks, by all means. So now we've got our mushrooms all sliced up and they're prepped, they're ready to go. This is our onion. So I'm actually going to cut this 2 different ways as well. So we're going to cut half of this onion one way. We're going to small dice it for our fried rice. Then the other half of it, we're actually going to cut into larger 1/2 inch chunks for the stir fry itself. So we're going to show you how to do that right now. You're going to take your onion, leave it whole. Don't cut off the ends. This guy's a little flat and squat, so he's going to be a little more difficult to cut, but we're going to work with it. My best suggestion to get started is to pull the sticker off. And we're going to, right down the middle of the onion, at the top through the root, we're going to cut straight down in half. I'm going to set the 1/2 aside and bring the other half that we're going to start with over here. And then from here, you do want to cut your root ends off. So we're going to cut a little bit off of both sides. Okay. So from here, you want to peel the outer couple of layers because, again, those are protective and they're not really tender and delicious to eat. So now this should be what you're left with for 1/2 of your onion. So with this onion, what we're going to do is, because it's so short, we're just going to go down lengthwise and we're just going to cut it into larger chunks. So now with this other onion, we're going to do the same thing, okay? We're going to cut the root ends off. We're just going to use half of the onion for this. You don't need a lot. I'm going to move all this papery skin off to the side. Okay, and you're going to peel off the outer couple layers. So with this guy, the proper way to dice an onion that makes it really simple and keeps the onion diced evenly the whole way through is you're going to take your knife and against one of these flat sides that you cut the root off of, you're going to go down. Don't cut all the way from front to back. You want to leave it connected on the back side here, and you'll see why in just a second. So you just want to keep cutting all the way through as evenly down as possible. Then from here, you're going to take and cut 2 horizontal slits, again, about 3/4 of the way through. We're going to double this guy up. You want to keep it all connected. So you see it's cut, but it's still connected. Now is where the magic happens. You're going to turn it back to the side. You're going to hold it together with your pinky and your thumb. You're going to hold this onion together while we cut. You want to let the motion of the knife do the work for you so you don't lose the hard work you just put in. You can see as it comes off, it is finely diced. Now you can adjust the size of your dice based on what you're looking for. And it all depends on how thick you cut your strips and how wide you cut your cross sections in the middle. Okay. So now we've got the onions for our fried rice. And that, my friends, we're ready. We're ready to cook. Okay, so I've got the 2 tablespoons of olive oil in my pan. It's really good and hot, which is what you want to get started. We're going to take a little bit of toasted sesame oil. So you can find this in the Oriental section of your grocery store. You do not want to use a lot of it. It is very potent, very strong. It can take over any dish. So we're going to use probably just maybe like a half a teaspoon right now. We're going to set that back off to the side. And we're going to start with our carrot. You can really smell the sesame comes off of it immediately. We're going to start with our diced carrot. And we're just going to saute that around a little bit. Okay, so once our carrot goes for a couple, maybe 30 to 45 seconds, we're going to drop in our onions. We're also going to take some of this fresh garlic that we have, and we're going to add that to the pan now as well. And the key is, you don't want to let the garlic get too dark. A little bit of brown is okay, but if it gets too dark, it can turn bitter. As the onion starts to turn translucent or get clear, we're going to go ahead and progress on to the next step, which is going to be to add our riced cauliflower that we worked so hard on. Carrots and onions have actually absorbed a lot of the olive oil, so I'm going to go ahead and put 2 more tablespoons. So we're at 4 altogether because this is a lot of cauliflower that we're going to need to coat with some olive oil. So now that we have our oil in, our pan's nice and hot, our onions are translucent, and our carrots are mostly cooked, we're going to add our riced cauliflower. I'm actually going to hold back on some of this and freeze it for a later date because this is a lot. And right now we're going to take, while that's cooking up a little bit, we're going to take the rest of our little nub of fresh ginger, we're going to cut it off the rest of the chunk. We'll save this guy for later. We're going to go back to the microplane and we're going to grate some fresh ginger right into the fried rice. The one thing I did forget to mention a little bit earlier on was that I have some frozen peas. We're going to add some peas to this as well. So that we have the pea, the carrot, the onion, the garlic, the ginger, and all those fresh, nice flavors going on. Okay, so to finish out our fried rice, what we're going to do is we're going to add our peas, because all they really have to do is thaw out. I'm going to add a little bit of the sesame seeds that I have over here. I've got some black and white sesame seeds. So I'm going to add a little bit of this as well. And then I'm going to add a little bit of our soy sauce here, because we really haven't seasoned anything salt or pepper wise. We're going to do a little bit of pepper flake, which I have red pepper flakes here just for the heat. And then the soy sauce to give it a little bit of seasoning and some salt. You want to just stir it around until all the soy sauce is mixed in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a little bit of a well right here in the middle. So we're going to part the fried rice here off to the sides, and we're going to turn our heat off. And we're going to take, we've got 2 eggs, 1 and 2, and we're going to go ahead and crack them right in the center of the pan. Just keep stirring them until they're just fine curds of scrambled egg. And then we're going to mix that into the rice all together, re-season it with a little sesame oil, some of these nicely chopped green onions, and then we're good to go with our fried rice. We're gonna plate it up. Okay, so now that our fried rice is done, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna serve it up family style. You can serve it right out of the pan onto plates. You can do it however you'd like, but we're gonna go ahead and plate it up family style. Right here onto our platter. Very glad that I did not use all the cauliflower that I chopped up, because holy mackerel. Okay, so we've got our fried rice there on our platter. And now we're going to take just a little bit of finished garnish. Some of these white and black toasted sesame seeds sprinkled around. Just for the color and a little bit of hit of that fresh sesame flavor. All right, so now comes the last step. We are almost ready to eat. So I know you're hungry because the smells in here are unbelievable. It smells so good. So I went ahead and washed my pan real quick, and I've got it back on the stove on a medium-high heat. We're going to do 2 more tablespoons of olive oil. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cook our meat separately. So we're going to cook our chicken breast. We're going to dump that in, going to cook it all the way through and then take it out. Then we're going to cook our shrimp. Then we're going to take it out. Then we're going to cook all our veggies, dump all the meat back in at the end, toss, toss, toss. We are good to go. Okay, so we've got our pan heating up now. Just give your meat a little bit of a toss in the marinade one more time, and then go meat and marinade all in the pan. You really want it to be a good high heat. You want to get a good sear on your protein. So we're going to almost immediately start moving it around. We're going to let this chicken cook all the way through. It shouldn't take too long, 2 to 3 minutes, just until the chunks of chicken are cooked together. And what you're going to notice is that the marinade is going to, it's going to reduce down. You're going to lose a lot of the liquid, but that just means that the flavor is going to intensify and coat the chicken, and it's going to be really, really flavorful. But just remember that there is sugar in this marinade, so it will burn. So if your pan is too hot, just turn it down, just adjust it a little bit, and you'll be fine. You really get the garlic and the ginger, and this is where my dog's down here being my little vacuum for me. So we're starting to get some good color on this chicken. Going to let it go for another minute here just to finish up. We want to make sure that our chicken is completely cooked through at this stage of the process. So again, so we don't cross-contaminate everything later on. And now a lot of our marinade is gone, so we want to make sure that we're stirring constantly so that the chicken does not burn. Okay, so we're going to take our chicken and we're going to come out of the pan. And we're going to put the pan right back on. And then we're going to do our shrimp. Now shrimp are going to cook really, really fast. They're probably going to cook in maybe up to 2 minutes. So you don't want to overcook them because they will kind of turn to like rubber bands. They get real tough. So we're going to cook them really, really quick. We may even undercook them just a little because by the time we go to add it back in with the vegetables, they're going to finish cooking all the way through. So you can see our pan's really good and hot. We're going to toss these guys in. Okay, so we're going to give our shrimp a nice little toss. They're just about finished, so we're going to pull them because we don't want to overcook them. We're going to put them on this plate over here just to hold off for a couple minutes, and we'll warm them back through right at the end. So again, leave the pan just like this. You don't even have to clean it. That's the great thing. It's a one-pan deal towards the end, but all the bowls in between, kind of a mess. Okay, so take a little bit more olive oil. Now remember our veggies, right? So our carrots are going to take the longest, so we're going to start with them. We've got those oblong round carrots that we cut. And now with those, the broccoli's partially cooked. The zucchini won't take long, but they're a little thicker chunks, so we're going to put them in sooner than later. We just want to saute the carrots. And remember, you want a good high heat. Think about when you go to Kobe or you go to these name brand restaurants and you know that that griddle gets really, really, really hot, like smoking hot, and it cooks the food really fast. That's what we're looking to emulate here. Okay, so we got our carrots starting. We're going to add our zucchini. This meal is very veggie forward. There's lots of veggies involved. So again, you want a good hot pan. I'm going to go ahead and add our broccoli to finish off the cooking. Then we're going to add our mushrooms. This pan's getting mighty full. Okay, so we are just about there. What we're going to do is we're going to add the rest of our black and white mixed sesame seeds into the hibachi. We're going to grab our Let's Eat platter. And we're going to plate up our veggies first. Okay, so we're going to bring this right over here. I'm actually going to serve it up separated. So if some people don't like the veggies mixed with the meat, or some like chicken and don't like shrimp, or vice versa, you can kind of do it this way as well. So we're going to put out some veggies, and we are going to put these guys right next to our veggies. And now we're gonna do the same thing with finishing our chicken. Just gonna heat it back up a little bit, get all that juice. So we've got our finished dishes here. You're ready to eat. Just remember, it's all about the prep work. The more prep work that's done ahead of time, you saw the cooking process didn't take too long. We really hope you enjoy. Again, it's completely customizable and you can fix it however you would like. So we have our cauliflower fried rice and we have our shrimp and chicken hibachi with mixed vegetables. Bon appetit.